I'm a special educator. We lost a paraeducator position this year, which is basically a student assistant. And without that person, the special ed teachers have been forced into more of a support role rather than an educative role, basically monitoring behaviors of students rather than actually teaching. In prior years, before we lost that position, I was working more with the general educator in the classroom. So we would do some team teaching. The curriculum would be shared between the special educator and the general educator. Now I've had to step away from that role and play more of a behavior management role with those students with IEPs in the classroom rather than having a shared role in the curriculum.
Well, the impact that the budget cuts have had at my school is that we have larger classroom sizes and we have fewer adults available to assist our children, to talk to them, to spend time in directing and teaching them and instructing them. And it's a deficit that we really don't want to see happen. We want to see our children continue to grow, and we want to continue to nurture them. We need individuals there to make that happen. I think it can be fixed if we invest in our children, that we make sure that we have the personnel on board that we need to make things better for the classroom teachers and better for our students and better for the parents as well.
In order to get the best students and to prepare for the best future, I'm an advocate of using technology. I'm not able to get the latest technology, for instance like Mimeo boards or iPads and other technology that could really help students who are divergent thinkers, divergent learners. These materials are not being provided the way they have been in previous, and I can already see as a district we're beginning to fall behind in what technology we are able to share.
We've had to reduce staff some, so I'm seeing larger classroom sizes, even in inclusion classes as a special educator. Ideally, the state wants to have 3 or 4 kids included in the regular classroom, but sometimes we end up having to have 6 to 8 kids included in the regular classroom, and that's not ideal learning for our special ed kids. Now you have a class sometimes that is slightly lower than you would expect it to be. So you have a class of above average, average, and maybe slightly below average, along with the 4 to 6 kids that have learning disabilities or emotional disabilities, and it just makes for interesting classroom dynamics sometimes.
We have a thing called surplus, and surplus means that there are now 2 many of us in one area. And I have been surplus not once but twice. And during this time of being surplus, I was moved to another high school, and my job was given to an English teacher who knew nothing about my area. I teach family and consumer science, which used to be known as home economics. So I have a new English teacher who's teaching my classes to students, and she knows nothing about my area, my content area. Then as I move on to my next school, I'm there for about 6 years, and then I'm surplus again. But the year prior to being surplus the second time, my classes my numbers were diminishing, and I'm having to teach the software apps, which I knew nothing about.
In this 21st century, there's not enough technology for us to provide for our students. We have one mobile lab for the whole school that has 30 computers on it. And it's hard to facilitate technology classes with that. Our class sizes are getting larger. I have 23 kids in my class alone, and I'm currently housed in a computer lab without desks. And we also do not have enough staffing to provide the support needed for inclusion classrooms, where children who receive special education services can be in the same classroom as children performing in regular ed. We don't have enough special ed teachers to provide that assistance, so we're stretched on that level, so we can't even maintain inclusion. If my students don't have what they need, then I'm the one who pays for it. We're not even allowed to request tissues from parents anymore. There was this new law or whatever passed that we can't request tissues. And so, when there's swine flu and other things going around, it's kind of hard to keep everyone healthy and in school if there's no tissues for them to blow their noses on.
The budget cuts have made an impact in our school with resources. The biggest thing that I saw this particular school year, moving to a new grade level, was we usually always get new books for the students to read that are kind of associated with their interests. This year there wasn't any money for that, so the students are not reading, we weren't able to purchase new books that kind of fit their interests. And thinking about some of our students, especially our males, our boys, there's the graphic novels, which we used to call comic books, but they're now called graphic novels. We weren't able to purchase books like that, to kind of increase student interest and literacy and reading. So that's something that I saw with the budget cuts.
The budget cuts have affected me in a couple different ways. The biggest way that I noticed in my classroom is the larger class sizes and not having larger facilities to meet the size of the classes. We also have an increasing special ed population, but our class sizes are increasing at the same time, which causes us to have a really hard time meeting the needs of the kids that really need the most attention. Another way is the lack of funding for special education teachers and assistants. We are some of our highest need students who are working with people who are unqualified because there is not funding to hire qualified student assistants to help them on a daily basis. So we see it as really impacting their progress and how they're functioning in an inclusive classroom. The actual size of my classroom has not changed, but the size of my numbers of students has changed, and so my space is very limited. I'm not as able to do as many interactive lessons where they're up and moving and working in groups because we just don't have the space to do it. I can't play games that involve all of them sitting in one area because we don't have the space for them to do that.
I teach the special needs population. I teach the ALS kids, and right now, due to budget cuts, our kids are, the support, the additional support that they need in the classroom is being provided by untrained personnel. So that's kind of hard. I just spent close to $100 on supplies. Due to the fact that we don't have, we've had a reduction of staff in the building, it cuts into our planning time because we've had to escort kids to classes. And I understand that the kids require, the close adult supervision, but that cuts into our time for planning. My time is cut short for planning. My time is cut short for IEP paperwork and just paperwork for the kids in general. So I'm stressed out, but I love the kids. So I do it because I love the kids, and I'm trying to do the best for the kids.
Howard County is going to grow by 8,000 students in the next 10 years. And we have to make sure we have the funding in place to have the educators that we need to do that. We also need more school buildings. We're slated to put in 2 new elementary schools and a middle school, but that won't get it for 8,000 kids. We're adjusting attendance areas so that we can utilize capacity in schools that don't have the seats full. What we're seeing too is dramatic overcrowding in the areas of our county that have housing that people with lower incomes can afford. So we have schools at 130% of the enrollment they should have. We have schools at 70% of the enrollment that they should have. It takes time to fix that, and it takes construction budgets to fix that, all of which is hard to do in tough economic times.